This is going to be a very dark one. There's no point sugarcoating it. Sometimes people have near-death experiences where they hang between the land of the living and the dead. Of those people, some of them claim to have seen heaven. That's all very well and nice, but some of them claim to have seen hell. These are the people we'll be talking about today. These are their stories. See what you think of them and what messages can be taken from them. My name is Danny Burke and this is the top 10 scary messages from hell. Starting off at number 10 now, we have ANGIE FENIMORE. In 1991, she attempted suicide and experienced a life review. Basically, her life unfolded before her eyes, but from the point of view of the people that she knew. She got to experience how those interactions with them made them feel. After that, she remembers being surrounded in an eternal darkness. She saw a group of people nearby and realized she was among others who had committed suicide. She tried to communicate with the others with her mind, but no matter how hard she tried, she was unable to. After a while, she was transferred to another part of hell. This part looked a bit like a field. Lost souls roamed around it. These souls were able to communicate with each other, but they actually refused to. Angie said they were too immersed in their own misery to interact with each other. Never mind Angie. She was sucked into another part of hell and landed on the edge of a shadowy realm, suspended in darkness. She continued to be moved to different parts of hell, seeing more forlorn and lost souls. Then she said God spoke to her through the darkness. He asked her if this is what she really wanted. When she said her life is so hard, God replied, "It is nothing compared to what awaits you if you take your life." What do you guys make of this story? Some religious people use this story as proof of the existence of heaven, hell and God. Next up at number 9 now, we have ZUSHIBA. She was a Reddit user who shared a story about her aunt who died while undergoing an operation. She said she floated above her body on the operating table and saw them trying to revive her. She felt a pull on her and flew out to the top of the room. Suddenly she found herself floating above the ground several inches above a field of dirt. In front of her was a deep dark chasm. On the other side was a beautiful field of grass flowers and sunlight. Where she was only had brown dirt. She began to hover over the chasm and felt an evil force pulling her down into it. She said it was the worst feeling of pain and horror she had ever experienced. After what felt like an eternity, the hands that were pulling her down went away. She felt happy and warm. She saw family members on the other side. She moved towards them, but suddenly she felt the same hands pull at her again, this time even harder. Again the hands came and so did the cold. Suddenly there was only darkness. Again she was on the ceiling of her room and saw her body below spasm violently. She heard the doctor say, "She's back," and suddenly it was dark. When she woke up, she told her family about her brush with hell and how she never wanted to be pulled down by those hands when the time really came. Moving on to number 8 now, we have Father Jose MANIYANGAT. He was a Catholic priest in Florida. In April 1985, he was hit by a drunk driver and nearly died. He was then taken on a trip in which he saw heaven, hell and purgatory during his near-death experience. He had something to tell everyone about hell. He said it's about 2,000 degrees Fahrenheit and filled with souls screaming in agony. He said hell was arranged in 7 levels and the new souls are assigned to a level based on the severity of their sins that they committed in life. He didn't just see people though, he saw people he knew who had died. These included fellow priests and bishops. He said they were there because they had misled people with false teachings and bad examples. Next up at number 7 now, we have Bill Wiese. He was a devout Christian who had a near-death experience on November 23rd, 1998. On that night he said he was lying in bed with his wife and was suddenly plunged into hell at exactly 3 AM on the dot. He said it was a very physical experience and that he believes God sent him to hell for him to become a living testimony. In his account, he said he was trapped inside a cell that was 15 by 10 by 15 feet. He wasn't alone either. There were 2 gruesome giants with him. After a while, 2 more vicious creatures entered the cell. When the light disappeared, the 4 giants then attacked him. He was ravaged for 23 minutes. Now the reason he knew that it was exactly that was because he woke up in his bed moments after and it was 3:23 AM. Ever since then, Bill has taken it as his life mission to spread the message of hell and its terrors. Moving on to number 6 now, we have AUDRA. That's the name that this woman gave when telling her story, not wanting to be identified any further. AUDRA had a seizure which sent her into a coma. She said she felt herself falling down a hole and scrambled for something to hold on to. It smelt like tar and she couldn't see anything above or below her. The more she shouted that she couldn't breathe, the faster she fell. A rocky substance was flying all over the place, especially in her face. All hope was lost. When her seizure ended, she was pulled from this dark place and brought back to life. Ever since that day though, Audra feels that she is somehow destined for hell and that the tunnel was her route to it. Now she lives her life in fear, terrified that she might die one day and return to that place. In an interview with a British newspaper, Audra said, "I continue to live in this bondage-like fear-based state of doing all I can to deserve my place here and earn my place in the afterlife." Next up at number 5 now we have Howard Storm. At the age of 38, Howard was an atheist. He also had a perforated stomach which led to a near-death experience. He woke up outside of his body and saw people around his hospital bed, but they couldn't hear him speak. He kept moving and found people walking towards him. However, when he tried to stop them to ask a question, they just walked right through him. It was then that he realized he was a ghost. Then he saw a group of people huddled around a door leading to a hallway. For some reason, these people could see him. Not only that, they were trying to tell him something. As he moved towards them, he saw they were urging him to follow them. Reluctantly, he agreed and stepped out into the hallway. Almost instantly, he was enveloped in a thick fog. He continued to follow the figures through this fog. They pestered him to keep up. As the hospital disappeared behind him, the figures turned nasty, shoving and pushing him. Eventually, they revealed themselves to be demons. They turned on him and tried to eat his flesh. Despite being an atheist, he prayed to God. To his amazement, it worked. When he came around the hospital, he vowed to become a Christian. Eventually, he went on to become a church minister and pastor. His story has become famous among those interested in near-death experiences. Next up at number 4 now, we have Matthew Botsford. This man claimed that in 1992, he went to hell and back. He and 2 work associates were in Atlanta on business. They had just left a restaurant and had gone outside to catch a taxi when, behind them, a group of men were arguing. 3 of them pulled out guns and started shooting. One of Matthew's friends were unharmed, 1 took a bullet to the head and died instantly, and as for Matthew, he also took a bullet to the head and died. What happened next, Matthew finds hard to describe. Utter blackness, he said, incredible fear. I went to a place that I believe was hell. It was void of anything good, beyond anything words could describe. This hand came down towards me, and as it did, it brought warmth, just flooding this room I was in with this brilliant white light. I was being pulled upwards. I heard this voice say, "It's not your time." Matthew was resuscitated on the scene. He was in a coma for 27 days in hospital and flatlined a number of times, but amazingly he survived. Eventually he was even able to walk without the aid of a wheelchair or cane. He and his wife started to go to church, with Matthew attributing his survival to God. He said, "When I was dead, I didn't cry out for God, yet he came down with his own hand and pulled me out of hell. That's a loving God." Moving on to number 3 now, we have Jennifer Perez. In May 1997, this woman nearly died after a group of friends drugged her drink and attempted to sexually assault her. Perez was hospitalized for 3 days, slipping in and out of consciousness. One time she claimed she floated out of her body. After a visit to heaven, she says she saw hell. She was standing on a great road and didn't know where it would lead to. The first thing she felt though was thirst. She told the angel who was guiding her, but he didn't hear her. She started to cry. The tears evaporated instantly. Then there was the smell of sulfur, like 1,000,000 burning tires. She tried to cover her nose, but that made it even worse. Her senses were heightened. Even covering herself up seemed to do nothing. The heat burned the hair off her arms. Eventually she saw people being tortured by demons, but could do nothing to save them. After this glimpse of hell, she was led back to heaven, where she says God gave her a second chance at life. Moving on to number 2 now, we have George Ritchie. Now he died of pneumonia in 1943 during World War II. He awoke to find himself in what looked like a hospital room. It looked like the hospital room he had been moved to for his treatment, but something was different. He noticed that all of his belongings were no longer in the room. What was even stranger though was that someone else was in his bed, the same bed that he had just got up from. He felt compelled to find out what was going on and knew the answers lied beyond this room. He stepped into the hospital hallway and followed it to a set of metal doors that led outside. He felt like he had to go to his hometown of Richmond, Virginia. He decided he was going to run there. He ran faster than humanly possible and eventually stopped in a small town. There was an old red cafe with a neon sign in the window. He found himself floating 50 feet above the building. A man below tried to enter the building. George tried to touch his shoulder, but his hand moved right through him as if it was made out of air. It was then that it hit him. He was dead, and the stranger in the hospital bed was actually him. He rushed back to the hospital and stood beside his body. Then he claims Jesus appeared. Jesus took him on a tour of different afterlives. Some looked like places on earth, some looked like nothing he could even imagine. He saw infinite souls battling on a huge plane, mutilating each other beyond belief, but suffering no physical injuries, only the pain that would normally come with them. And finally, number 1 now, we have TAMARA LAROUX. In September 1985, this 15-year-old girl attempted suicide by shooting herself in the chest. As soon as the shot went off, she found herself in a fiery pit. Hundreds of souls were screaming in agony, unable to talk to one another. She saw a creature with a dragon-like head, which she described as more fierce than anything that the earth has ever seen. Then a shining hand descended and carried her up to heaven before guiding her back down to home again. When she awoke, the medical team told her that the bullet had missed her heart by a quarter of an inch. Tamara dedicated her life to teaching others about her experience and how to avoid it. Well guys, I'd love to know what you make of all of those. Some people believe that they are all true accounts, others say that science can explain these visions. Where do you stand on this matter? Thanks for watching, as always, of course. My name is Danny Burke, and I will see you all in the next video.